What an interesting and challenging past couple of months it has been for all of us. Unlike other challenges that we have faced with, this one is affecting everybody. Over the last couple of months, I have been on at least 20 different conference calls, and I've read through mountains of research from the so-called experts on what they believe is currently going on and what they think will happen in the future. Today, I would like to share with you my thoughts on some of the challenges that we all face going forward as it pertains to the overall government shutdown. It centers around one thing and one thing only, and that's the coronavirus and ultimately the impact of our social distancing. Social distancing was first implemented in the U.S. back in 2009 as a result of the H1N1 pandemic. From April of 2009 through April of 2010, the CDC estimated that there were a total of 60 million cases of the H1N1 pandemic, of which 274,000 people were hospitalized and 12,469 people died. The social distancing that's been implemented in the last couple of months currently appears to be working as the number of new cases in the U.S. appear to be slowing down. According to the CDC's website, as of today, the total number of U.S. cases is at 605,000, with total deaths at 24,500. However, this social distancing is unprecedented, and we have in essence created our own recession that we are now all experiencing. As a result of this social distancing, we've seen unemployment go from 3.5% in February to the current unemployment rate of 14%. There are some economists that actually believe that unemployment could get as high as 25%. I feel that the biggest cost of social distancing will show up once we are all back to living our so-called normal lives. And that cost is the mountains of debt we are taking on as a country, as individuals, and as businesses and corporations, all to survive this downturn. So let me first talk about the government. The first thing to talk about the government is their overall total debt. The U.S. total debt includes public debt, which is Treasury securities, as well as debt that is owed to other governmental agencies. At the beginning of 2019, the total government debt was $22 trillion. And as of today, the current debt is at $24.2 trillion. Next, I would like to touch on the government's overall budget. The overall government's budget is simply the revenue they bring in, less the expenses that they take in. In the last 50 years, we have had 5 years that there has been a budget surplus, revenue in excess of expenses, and 45 years we've had a budget deficit. The largest budget deficit occurred in 2010 after the financial crisis, and that deficit was $1.5 trillion. Several economists are predicting for the fiscal year 2020, the government deficit could be as high as $3.8 trillion, and in 2021, $2.4 trillion. These huge projected deficits are the result of the Federal Reserve's aggressive use of monetary policy, as well as the government's aggressive use of their fiscal policy, with the most recent of the $2 trillion CARES Stimulus Act. Secondly, social distancing has caused consumer debt to increase. According to onlinelenderbetter.com, they saw a 500% increase in loan applications this year alone for mortgages when people refinance taking cash out of their homes. According to the federal data, student loans have also continued to go up. The current estimated student loan outstanding are around $1.5 trillion, which is 3 times the level it was back in 2007. Lastly, let's talk about corporate and business debt. Corporate debt was at record levels before the crisis, and it was approximately at $10 trillion at the end of 2019, as businesses simply took advantage of low interest rates. Now, debt is increasing as businesses try to keep themselves running while profits keep shrinking. According to Dealogic, the issuance of investment-grade corporate bonds in March reached 194 billion, which was 138 billion more than the previous month. Businesses are also tapping their lines of credit. According to federal data, the period from March 11th through March 25th, bank commercial loans rose 365 billion. So what does all of this mean? I think for one, when you turn off an economy, it has some very negative consequences. This shutdown is expensive to our government, to individuals, and to businesses. As we're getting closer to opening up our economy, there are lots of opinions out there about how we should reopen and when to do it. As a country, we have never turned off our economy, so I don't think no one really knows what it will look like once we do in fact turn it back on again. I think there are 5 takeaways from this overall social distancing that I want to share with you. First, as many biotech firms race to find a treatment and ultimately a cure or vaccination, we are seeing some very positive results in a lot of different studies that are currently being done as it pertains to the coronavirus. There was an article in the April 12th edition of the New England Journal of Medicine that released the study from a small sample of patients that were receiving a particular antiviral medication that had been subject to the coronavirus, and the results were very encouraging. Second thing, this is the deepest and fastest recession that we have ever experienced as a country. But remember, this was self-engineered. Third, unlike the 2008 financial crisis that occurred in the financial sector and worked its way into our economy, this crisis started in the economy and may work its way back into the financial sector. And fourth, the Federal Reserve and the government is using all of their tools at their disposal and have implemented the biggest policies we have ever seen since World War II. And they've had this attitude of, we will do whatever it takes to get through this, with all of their fiscal and monetary policy stimulus over the last few weeks. The markets have reacted very positively. In fact, last week, the stock market had its biggest return in 45 years. And fifth and lastly, there is still a lot of uncertainty on how this thing will unfold, but I believe that storms come and storms go. And as a country, we will prevail like we have in previous storms and just like we will when the next storm comes.